associated with that layer in the room, and then gets its ID because yeah, I look a little zoomed in, but that's okay. There we go. I just want to be able to see all my notes and stuff. So let's pull up my docs. Let's go to your first platformer. Let's go to 5. Title screen, save load, visual effects. Yeah, I want it to be like right there. Just want to make sure that I'm not too loud when I'm talking. You know, maybe the mix is just like really quiet going in. I don't think so. Maybe I can turn up the gain, just turn up the gain just slightly just so I can hear myself a little bit. I just don't want to blow out my mic, you know? It can be like around here and that's okay. Okay. Part 6 of my platformer tutorial. Right? Chat can go down here. Right? Gamemaker. Man, I'm just starting the stream way too early before everything's set up. Platformer tutorial. I'll have to edit all this out. That'll be part of the process, though. Editing. In fact, I'll add it to my to-do list. Hold on. I gotta change the relationship. There we go. This should go right down here. Apply. There we go. So when I move my mouse, yep, there we go. And I should open up docs again, add on my to-do list that I need to edit these. Tutorials. They might deserve an edit, as it were. Okay, let's get started. Hello, hello. Let me get a link open so I can preview my stream. You know, so I can see myself. And I can reduce the quality to like 480p. I'll make this a new window. Just want to be able to make sure I'm keeping track of everything so my stream does not go down. Hold on. What happened to my chat panel? Uh-oh. Docs, did I close chat? Did I move it over here? What happened, chat? I lost my chat. It's okay. Worry about that later. It's not important for a tutorial. Just make sure that I can see the chat in my preview window. Make that a little bigger. There we go. All right. Let's get going. Yeah, there we are. Last time we were working on this game, what did we have? Oh yeah, we added sounds. Sounds are there. Tutorial signs. right? So we all have the base game mechanics there. But now we need to do all the other stuff. Room transitions. Ah. Yeah, this is our game where we left off. They were up here. Yeah, so now we need a system to like save and load, and we need a title screen. So let's get going with all of that. We start by moving my notes over slightly. We start by duplicating our R splash and calling it R title. I'm going to try not to talk too loudly today so I don't lose my voice, because I'm going to try to record 3 tutorials today. Title. And I also have my water right here. And we're going to open up our title creation code. We're going to remove the initialize script from here. And then close that. And then in the initialize script, we can change the room go to function to our title. So our game will now go to the title screen. We're going to add also in our title creation code, we're going to add a fade in. So it fades in when we go there. Oh, I shouldn't close that. And then in the add an instance layer, we're going to call this player, because that is a instances layer that's going to be in all of our rooms. Our fade in and fade out, I think, all uses the player layer, right? And then we're going to add a title logo so we can actually see. Right now it's all black, so if we run our game, we're not going to actually see anything. The music will start, but we won't see anything because there's nothing in this black title room. So we need a title logo. So we go to sprites, create sprite. We're going to call this S title, or S title logo. And then let me get the right, here we go. Then we're going to find S title down here, the very last one. And we don't have to do much else with it than that. I will change the FPS to 0, even though that doesn't do anything. I even don't care if the origin is top left. It doesn't really matter. But we can open up our title, and we can add an assets layer. So we can add a sprite directly here. So let's just rename this, I don't know, assets, so it has a better name. And I'm going to make it lower than everything. And I can drag in just our sprite. No need to assign it to an object or anything. Right here. I don't know where to put it really. I'll maybe put it over here. I don't remember what when I designed this game where I place things. We can add some S fires here too. S fire, right? Here and here. Let's make this grid 10 by 10 so we have more precise control. There we go. Now we can check it out. It should initialize and then go to our title screen. It's working. Now we need some buttons for a title screen. So from this title screen, the player will be able to start a new game, load a previous game, and delete their saved game. So let's add some buttons. And to do that, we need to add a sprite called S button. So add a sprite, create a sprite, S button, import the images. Let's see, S button 0, S button 1. These are the two images we want. I might change this to 0. And I don't remember how I want to do this, if I want to assign the middle center origin or not. Yeah, I do. Middle center origin for this sprite, 0 FPS. Close that. And now create a new object. So let's open objects. Let's call this you know, accidentally hit enter, O button. And we will assign the button sprite just so we can see where we are going to be placing it. And before we do anything else, let's open our title and in the player layer, drag in O button. It doesn't matter really where. I'll put it up here. Now back to the O button object in the create event. Oops. Write hover equals false. It's going to be a new variable. So this Boolean will be either true or false, and it's going to tell the game when our mouse is hovering over the button and when it's not. Right? So let's open up a step event and write if distance to point mouse x mouse y is less than or equal to 0, if hover is false, audio, play, sound, S&D, shoot, false. Then down here, hover equals true, image index equals 1. So if our mouse is hovering over the button, assuming our collision mask is correct for this object, if hover is false, we'll play a sound effect and then set hover to true, so that sound effect only plays once, and then it'll change the image index from 0 to 1, which is our hover sprite. So to check it out, let's run the game. Okay, it switched over. It didn't change to, oh, I need to make it so it changes to false now. Else image index equals 0, hover equals false. Now it should switch back and forth. Yep. Now in a draw event, write draw self, because we want to draw the, the sprite, and button text, make a comment, draw set h align, center, draw set, let me reposition here. Sorry, I scraped my mic there. That's why I sort of get comfortable, because I'm going to be recording tutorials all day long. There we go. So over here, draw set v align middle, draw set font f default. If hover is false, else, for when hover is true, hover is false, draw set color C white, else draw set color C black, draw text X, Y, burn it, new line, a little line break, /n, all down. Let's test it out. Oh, this did not work with the... Oh, I need a /n to make that line break work. Burn it all down. And it changes the text color from white to black as necessary. So now we can make it so we can click the button and start the game, and this is really simple. Just here in the step event where we change it to hover, we can add if mouse check button pressed MB any, which is any mouse button, fade out global dot checkpoint room global dot checkpoint x global dot checkpoint y. Let's test it out. Click it. There's a fade out. Very good. I would like a sound effect for when we click it though. So right here where we check it. We check for the mouse click. We can add audio, play, sound, SND, explode, 1, false. Because the mouse check button pressed is only a function that says true or is true for a single frame, but it is true for every time you click it, but it's also only for one frame. We can safely just add a sound effect here, and we should be able to get a little click sound effect. Now, to make sure we can't do this where we just keep clicking and keep making the sound effect, right? We just need to add something to the step event here to make it so once this fade out has started, to not do anything else here. Don't do any more changes. And this is what I've been liking to do recently, is at the very top, I just say if instance exists, fade, meaning there's a fade happening, exit. What this does is right here at the top of the step event, because the step event runs in order, it says, hey, does this exist? If it does exist, it exits this event. So it just ignores all of this. But when fade doesn't exist, this exit doesn't happen and it runs the code normally. It's a great way to manage when events run. So let's run this and try clicking a bunch of times. Yeah, we tried clicking a bunch of times, only runs the sound effect once. Now to make it a little bit more polished, we can add a new tile layer in the title room and add our tiles. So put it down here. Call this layer tiles. Assign our tile sheet. Go to libraries and click auto tile. Zoom out a little bit, and now we can just add some some polish here. And maybe we'll go to assets and move these assets to where we would like them. We do have to make room for everything. And then the player layer, move this button right here. Back to tiles. Do we have room to do a little there? Yeah, kind of like that. We can always change that later. And then lastly, click this tab up here so we can get the creation code here. Here in the creation code, after the fade in, we can just write, actually, do you know what? This is for the wrong spot. We need to be able to see our mouse cursor while we're in this room, but as soon as we get to the game, we don't need to see our mouse cursor anymore, and we can make the mouse cursor disappear actually. So we just go to our room code script, and before the fade in, we can say make mouse cursor invisible. We can just write window set cursor CR none. So that when we play the game, the mouse disappears. Yeah, we don't need it anymore because we're now using the keyboard. But when we're back at the title menu, we want to be able to see our mouse. So we're going to go back to the R title creation code and write window set cursor CR default. I'll make sure I didn't introduce any bugs. Always run the game. No bugs. Now we're going to add our save and load system to the game. So we're going to first make a button that's going to delete our save game. So that once you've started a game, you can delete your save. But we'll do that maybe later. Let's write some scripts for save games and load games. And then we can put those scripts wherever we want it in the game when we want to save or load our game. So let's create a script. Call this save game. I know my face was blocking what I was writing. This is what the function is called, save game. And we are going to write a bunch of things here. So let's get some space and write if file exists, rp save.sav file delete. rpsave.sav. We do this because if, .sav, not .save. We do this because if we have a save file that already exists, we want to delete that save file before we create a new one with the updated save game. We can write any underscore open. We're going to use an any file, which is just an organized text file, to be our save game file. And the any open creates a new file too. So we can call this new file rpsave.sav. Any write real. Progress is the section. You can see down here section, key, and value. So the section of this file is going to be called progress. The key, just a string, it's going to be called the room that we want to save. And then global.checkpoint room is what we want to save it to be. Now we are going to, did I misspell something? No, that's all correct. We're going to do this a few times though. So I'm copying and pasting, call this X, call this Y, checkpoint X, you see where this is going, checkpoint Y, and then we end it by writing any close. So this ends our edit of this any file that we have created. Now we can't really test this till we have a load game script, but basically what this does is when we run it, it'll get these values for room X and Y, and it will save it in this file under the section called progress, and the room will be saved to the value called room, X will be saved to the value called X, and our checkpoint Y will be saved to the value called Y. For the load game script, create a script, where it is, called load game. It's called load game, one word. Let's create some space and write if file exists rpsave.sav. Let's get some space here. Any open rpsave.sav. Global.checkpoint room equals any read real. In the progress section, the value of room, and if there's no value stored there, the default value will be R level 1. And we can do this 2 more times. Just change what it says here. This is going to be X, this is going to be Y, this is going to be X, this is going to be Y, and then these values will be whatever we have in our initialized script. So let's look that up. 384, 384, and 1830. 1830. And then we end this by writing ini underscore close to close the editing. So this will open our save file if it exists, and then save these values that it finds in that file to our global variables here. So to test this, we need to choose where the game is going to use the save game script. And the checkpoint objects are perfect for that. So let's open oCheckpoint in the step event. And after it saves, or it changes all of these variables, updates all of these variables, just write the script, save game. And then in the death script's death, right? Before the fade out is called, write if file exists rp save.sav. It's called RP save because this is Robot Pyromaniac. That's the name of the game. And when I do save games, because I have multiple projects, I always have like just the initials of the game followed by save.sav. It's just the system that I use. But if file exists, RP save.sav, load game. Now, the reason we put this before the fade out is because the fade out is going to go to this room and load up this checkpoint X and checkpoint Y. We need to update these before we give this information to fade out. So this will update those values of where we need to go. And then lastly, in our initialize script, after the global variables get declared, which are all these, add comment load game if file exists rpsave.sav load game. And what this does is that if it's the first time you're booting up your game, these values will get declared and there's no save game stored on the player's computer, so it ignores this and it just starts the game. But if the player has played it, closes the game, and then reboots it up later, it'll declare these variables and then check if there's a save game file, and there will be. And since there will be a save game file, it will update all of those global variables to the updated variables that they need to be. So let's check if everything works. Then I might take a sip of water. So we start the game. It starts normally. Let's get to the first checkpoint, because that's where we know is the only place where we will be using the save game script. Checkpoint. Now I'm going to close the game. I'm going to open the game. And it takes us to that checkpoint. So it is now saving that checkpoint and the checkpoint room because it's going to the correct room. So we need to be able to delete the save for when we want to start a new game. And so to do that, we'll just add a button to the title menu. To start, let's make an adaptable button system using the button that we've already created. So in the step event, we are going to remove everything under mouse check button pressed. And instead of having all of this, I'm just going to Control X just to cut it and write the script button action, open close parentheses, semicolon. Now we haven't created this script yet, but we will. We haven't created this function yet, but we will. It's not going to be a script. Then we go to the create event and write text equals quote mark, semicolon. In the draw event, change this text to text. And now create a new object called oButtonStart. Assign the button sprite. And then set its parent to be oButton. Hopefully you see where this is going. Right, so our oButton is just going to be the parent button object, and then we can have other buttons that do other things. Now, the faded create event here, which is loading up what is currently in our oButton object, we're going to right-click there and either select override event or inherit event. If you select override event, you'll just need to add this inherit event function. It does the same thing. So I'm just going to click inherit event, so it just preloads this function there. Remove this, and then write function space button action, open close parentheses, open curly brackets, close curly brackets, and then that stuff that I cut previously, the sound effect and the fade out. So this is very useful. Basically, you can have functions that get created in like the create event of an object, and basically stores code as if it were a variable, such that when you use it, you can just place it in the step event, and it can be whatever you load up. So now I can have different buttons that have different things happen when you click it, and that thing that happens is called the button action. But for each different button, it can be something different. Now here we'll also write the text equals burn it /n all down. So the text of the button will also be changed. And lastly, to test it, we need to open our title room and remove the OButton object and replace it with OButtonStart instead. Now we'll try it out and see if everything works. It's all working. You can see it loaded to a checkpoint because we have not deleted the save yet. So it should be working the same as before, except now we have a system that's much more adaptable. Now for a delete save progress button, we're going to duplicate OButtonStart and call it OButton delete save. Let's open that up. Go to the create event. This is where we customize things. And we're going to change the button action. So let me delete this. And we're going to change the text. The text is going to be reset /n for a line break game. And our button action will be if file exists rpsave.sav file delete rpsave.sav. Then down here, write initialize. So it reinitializes the game, resets all the game variables. Instance destroy, because after we delete our save, we won't need a delete save button anymore. And then play sound. Audio play sound. That's in the explode, because that will be our button click sound. And we will add another condition near the top of the create event. We will write if bang file exists. So if file doesn't exist, rpsave.sav. Just go ahead and delete yourself. Instance destroy. If there's no save game file, just delete this button. And we can open up our title, player layer. We can add our delete save button right there. Sure, I don't have an important text. I don't. So now we have the start button and then the delete save button. So right now, it's currently saved and we go to a checkpoint. But once we click reset game, oh, we have a bug. I like finding these with y'all so y'all can see what I do to resolve this. It says audio play sound requires at least 3 arguments. Ah, I didn't put the other arguments. Audio play sound. And in fact, we have a little red squiggly line telling us this. Priority of 1, loops, false. Got to be able to debug your own games. No one's going to be helping you. Well, now there's no save game, so let's go create a save game. At least we know that it deletes itself if it doesn't have a save game file on my computer. So let's create a save game file. Hit checkpoint. Now it's there. And click this. It reinitializes the game. Now, one thing I kind of want to add here is I want to... It'd be kind of nice if it had a fade out, right? Fade out to R initialize. I'm going to try that really quick. It's not in my notes. I'll do it anyway. Fade out target room is R initialize. R splash, it's called. Target X 10, 10. Will that even work, or will it get buggy because there's no player in our initialize script? So let's check that out. So we need a save game file. Of course, I can always remove that if I need to. run it now that we have a save game. It doesn't really work. I don't like that now, so just get rid of it. It works fine as is. So we should give the player a way to navigate back to the main menu. So let's open up our O player. In my own games, I have like a control object that handles all sort of these game level control things. But since this is a very simple tutorial game, I just put it all in O player. Step event. First off, the section where it says remove before publishing, we can just delete that. And in the input section, we can add a new key, var key return equals keyboard check pressed vk escape. Then be sure to add here key return equals 0. And where do I have if instance exists, oh fade? I think I have that here. If it instance exists, oh fade. No, don't I have it somewhere else? I never placed that. Let me see. If instance exists, oh fade. I can just add exit. Yeah, this is what I do. Instead of making all these 0, you can just write exit. That's what I taught y'all to do. Is that if you want to just ignore everything, just write exit. Does the same thing. There we go. And then we can add a region. I'm going to put this at the bottom called game control. And region. And write back to title screen as a comment if key return is true, fade out our title 0, 0. So let's test it out now. We should be able to start our game, then hit escape. And we get a fade out. Beautiful. So we can now fade out to our title room anytime we want. Let's do one more thing here. Since this is a title screen, let's add some credits to the title screen so you know who made the game, which is me. You will put my name because I designed the game. You cannot take credit for what I made. So let's create a new object and call it oCredits. And in the draw event, write a bunch of functions that you should be very familiar with, which are draw set h align fa center, draw set v align fa middle, draw set font f default, draw set color c white. My notes, I have the wrong color, so let me fix my notes really quick. Then draw text x, y, a prototype by /n for a line break, Dr. Sky Laurel Anderson /n for a line break, skylaurel.net. And then you can add it to your title screen. Let's open up our title in the player layer. oCredits right here. We can just drag it in, and I think I place it like right down here. I think this is the middle of the room. We might need to adjust our tiles a little bit. So there's room. Let's see how that fits. There we go. Prototype by Dr. Skylar L. Anderson, skylarl.net. Let's add some visual polish to the game by adding 2 very easy visual effects. because whenever you're making pixel art games, you can't just have, I mean, you can. I know some games that pull it off and still make it look good. But you can't, oftentimes you just can't have just straight pixels. It gets very visually boring pretty quick. I'm going to turn down my desktop volume a little so it's not as loud when I play the game. You need to add some visual polish to it. So in this game, because it's a tutorial, I'm going to make these visual polish elements very simple. One is going to be something that comes with Gamemaker called a glow effect, and the other one we'll create ourselves. So first, in all of your rooms, you need to add an effects layer and name it glow, and then set the settings. So we're just going to go just down our list of rooms here. We're going to start with our level 1 and new layer, effects, make sure it's at the very top, rename it to glow. Oh, accidentally opened up a new browser tab. And then set the effect type to glow. It says glow in game only. And then change these settings to this. Radius, change to 30. Quality, change to 3. Intensity, change to 0.3. Open up our level 2. Do the same thing. Very top. Effects. Rename it to glow. Effect type, glow. Radius, 30. I try to choose values that'd be very easy for you to remember. 33 and 0.3. Quality, 3. Intensity, 0.3. Almost had a typo there. Open up, why not, R-Splash 2, even though we never see it. Nah, forget R-Splash. We never see it. Open up our title, though. Effects. Glow. Glow. 33, 0.3. Close all of these. And let's run the game and see if we get a little glow effect. There we go. Now there's a tiny glow effect to everything. Gives it a little bit of professionalism, a little bit of polish. Now the second effect will be a scanline effect that we create ourselves. Scanlines is an artifact of much older televisions, CRT televisions. Now this isn't going to be accurate to CRT televisions, but it's still going to give some polish and texture to our pixels. So we start by creating a new sprite. I'm going to call this sprite S screen filter. S screen filter. Very good. Change the canvas to be 3 pixels by 3 pixels. Click apply. We're going to go edit image. Set the color picker as white with an alpha value of 130. That'll make it semi-transparent. Click OK. Then using the pencil tool, add 1 pixel in the top left corner and leave the rest empty. Now now we're going to create an object called O screen filter. In its create event, write surfaces are the same size as the game window display. All right, here we're going to use surfaces, and surfaces are a little tricky to explain. I think for an introductory level tutorial, it's maybe too complex to explain, but I will say this. A surface is what you see when you're playing the game. Everything that gets drawn in all the draw events, plus everything that gets implicitly drawn to a draw event by being assigned, objects being assigned sprites. Everything gets drawn to surfaces, and those surfaces get displayed on in the game. In fact, the last surface that gets created and is the one you actually see is called application surface. But we can play around with other surfaces and play with surfaces and use this function in our game. So first, we're going to make some local variables, var underscore w for width, display get GUI width, var h equals display get GUI height, surf filter equals surface create. We create a surface. The size of the surface will be underscore w underscore h, which will be the size of our player's window. Set up filter surface is a comment. Surface set target surf filter. Draw sprite tiled. Draw sprite tiled. S screen filter. Subimage of 0. X and Y of 0. Surface reset target. So what this does is that it draws a sprite tiled, which means it goes all the way to the right and then goes the height of the sprite and draws it across the screen based on its width and goes down the height of the sprite. And it does this repeatedly, and we're going to draw this to a surface. And the reason we do that is so it doesn't get redrawn tiled every frame. This gets created to a surface, and then we can apply that surface wherever we would like. And you can read the game manual or the documentation to read more about how surfaces operate. And then we are going to add a draw GUI end event because we want to apply this filter after all the fade-ins and fade-outs, since those use the draw GUI event. And we can write in here screen filter overlay if surface exists, which you should always be checking if a surface exists, because surfaces can get cleared out of memory when, say, you minimize a window or alt tab out of the game window. And so you never want to draw a surface unless the surface exists. So we always use this function, surf filter, draw surface, surf filter, 0, 0 for the X and Y. If the surface doesn't exist, we got to recreate it. var, we can copy this. I'm going to just copy and paste these lines of code. And then here, copy these lines of code also. Right, exactly what we did here in the create event. Now in the rtitle creation code, let's go there. Creation code. You can add instance create layer 0, 0 for the X and Y because it doesn't really matter. In the player layer, because we know that exists in every room, O screen filter. And then close out of that. And then in the room code script, do the same thing. In fact, I should have pasted that. Screen filter instance create layer 0, 0 player layer O screen filter. So the rooms that we have are our levels and also the title room. So that's where I'm making sure we get our screen filter created. So let's see if it exists. So these aren't exactly scan lines from a CRTV because I find those tend not to be very well implemented in a lot of pixel art games. What this is like sort of epoxy dots that get applied everywhere, and it just gives some texture to your pixel art. Just very mild texture to everything, to the blacks and the whites. There we go. Yeah, because this is drawn to the GUI layer, it doesn't need to follow the camera or anything. It'll always just be assigned to what the player is seeing. And if you don't like these effects, don't worry. Our last video in the series is actually to create menus for accessibility and difficulty and button remapping. And as part of that, we're going to add a button to toggle those screen effects on and off. But that's for the next video, which hopefully I will stream in a few moments after I sip some water. So just hang out for a second. I will stop this stream, but I'm going to create a new stream, and you can go watch that in a moment.